Hello friends! So here is a fun, yet slightly terrifying fact. You know your divorce case? Yeah, that's probably public record. Yikes! Meaning, for those of you who have not caught on yet, anyone who is curious, and we all know at least one nosy neighbor or one soon-to-be ex-in-law who is, they can just hop online, hit a couple keystrokes, and peek into your private business by going onto your divorce case docket. Oh no, I know, it's like giving the world reality TV, but without the paycheck. So don't panic, because on today's video, we are going to talk about what's actually out there, how to protect yourself, and also things to avoid in order to make sure that your private pain, your divorce case, is not entertainment for the public. You know, kind of like Days of Our Lives or one of those good novellas. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back to the Divorce Broadcast. My name is Manny Segarra, coming to you from Miami, Florida. Alright, so let's start off with what we mean by court records. And in the state of Florida, like in most other states, divorce filings are court records. And court records by design are open to the public. So that means in any divorce case, the petition for dissolution of marriage, the counter petition, the financial affidavits, any type of agreements that are filed in the court, or any types of transcripts can be accessed by anyone who is looking for that information. And in some jurisdictions, in some courts across the country, they make it especially easy. All somebody has to do is sit there and type in the name, maybe the last name and first name of the party that they're looking for in that particular clerk of courts division or online portal, and boom, that person will be able to see child support guidelines, financial affidavits, maybe equitable distribution charts, even a breakdown of all the motions and pleadings that were filed in a case, and that can be quite embarrassing. Now, we would be remiss if we did not mention that not everything is easily accessible. Remember, each jurisdiction and each court of either the state of Florida or throughout the country, they have their local rules or their administrative rules in which they lay out what information is to remain confidential. Some of this information usually includes the parties' social security numbers, or the children's full names, or also bank account statements. But the rest of the information, well, let's just say that it's not even as private as your Instagram close friends list. Ouch, that's not good. So, what can people actually see on these court dockets? In other words, what is the kind of information we are talking about here? Well, let's start off with the basics, and that is who filed, where, and when. A lot of times they can figure out why too, because the petition will indicate some reasons. Number 2, financial disclosure. We're talking about income, property values, debts, alimony payments, child support obligations. All of that information is in there. Parenting details. If there's a temporary order on time sharing or visitation, if there's a parenting plan, if there's some sort of order regarding supervised visitation, all of that is in there. And of course, any of the court drama, any type of motion, a motion for contempt, for failure to pay child support, a motion to suspend someone's time sharing for some sort of child abuse, or a motion to allow for either drug testing or SoberLink. All of that information is in there, as well as the initial pleadings. Why the parties are getting divorced sometimes is placed in those petitions. If there's a relocation case, it's in there. Paternity allegations, all of those arguments are out there for the public to see. Now, imagine someone scrolling through all that information, how awkward that can be for that person's either new employer or new partner. Awkward doesn't even start to explain some of the issues that may arise. So let's talk about the whys. Why it's so important that we know that the information on a divorce court docket is public record. Well, the first one is that this information can follow you for years because the court dockets, they can live on forever, at least for hundreds of years, or as long as they're going to continue to maintain records for the courts that you're in. And that means that this information will follow if there's anything on the docket, let's say an unsavory text message between one of the parties and someone from their job, or an email or inappropriate photograph, and that information gets brought to human resources, that could be a problem for them. Just ask the guy who was at the Coldplay concert recently. So people need to really think about what they file and what they put in these dockets so it doesn't come back to haunt them later. Keeping in the same vein, a lot of times neighbors are nosy, and if someone lives where there's an HOA or some special assessments due, I have seen situations in which people start digging into other people's background to see if they have sufficient information either to be approved or to pay for the special assessment or things of that nature, because all of this information is public record. Probably the most important reason to be mindful of what's filed in these divorce dockets is to protect the children. That's right, because these kids, they don't remain little forever. They will turn 15, 17, 18, and older in the blink of an eye, and if they ever go on the docket, it would be horrible for them to see some of the pleadings that I've seen in these cases. And finally, one of the other people who is always interested in what happens in these court proceedings is when the case is over. If the client and the attorney remain friends, the attorney can always check to see if there's ever any new filings in the case so that they can give their former client a heads up if appropriate in that particular case. So what can we do to protect our personal information through a divorce case? And number one, if you have an attorney, talk to your attorney and ask them if the sensitive information can either be sealed or found to be confidential. In the state of Florida, it is not automatic. You must file an appropriate motion before the court, and the rule that governs this procedure is Florida Rule of General Practice and Judicial Administration 2.420C9A. That rule will tell you that it is not automatic. You can't just show up to court and be like, "Oh, judge, it's embarrassing to me to have this information." Embarrassing is not enough. You have to give the court a reason to keep this information private. Think Social Security statements or your Social Security number, or if there's domestic violence, the address of the alleged victim of domestic violence, if there's medical records for the children. Think that information is really the type of information that the courts are probably more inclined to grant to be either sealed or confidential. Remember that the rule is made for legitimate privacy concerns. It is not about reputation management. Now, if the case for some reason or another cannot be sealed or determined to be confidential by the court, there are some other affirmative steps that can be taken, like filing only what's necessary. We don't have to besmirch people and be nasty in the pleadings and emotion. If at all possible, avoid that so that we keep the temperament cool and the language in some of these documents more neutral. Also, mediation and settlement are your best friend. They can allow you more privacy and what to do with the filings of these agreements. And finally, take a minute and think before we type out that fiery email instructing our lawyer what to do or what type of fiery motion to file. Think that this information that we're about to put out there and all the exhibits that may contain either graphic information or personal information will probably live on that docket forever unless a court seals it. So once that information is out there, it is extremely hard to put the toothpaste back in the bottle. It is gone. That ship has sailed. So before we wrap up, as we always like to do, here's the life lesson in all of this. In love as well as in the law, what you share really matters. Your divorce file, it's like a little social media file. It may feel good to overshare or to pop off on that medium, but later on you may regret it and it may come back to haunt you, especially with your kids. So be thoughtful, be strategic, and remember, guarding your privacy is not about hiding the truth. It is about peace of mind and your ability to move on after a divorce. So that is a wrap on our video. And if you are going through a divorce and wanting to make sure that your business stays your own private business, talk to an experienced family law attorney to know what your options are. And if you are still wondering if your divorce docket and the information on there appears online, go ahead and check. I know that you want to, just maybe not before bedtime, because I promise you will probably sleep better without knowing just yet. All right, so we will see you next time on the Divorce Broadcast, where we try to make sense of the mess with a little bit of humor, a little bit of law, and a lot of real life. And if you know anyone going through this type of situation with all of their information out on blast, have them look us up at www.segarralawfirm.com. We have offices in Miami and Orlando, Florida. Se habla español. Please do us a favor and like this video. Drop us some comments about some of the stuff that you've seen online in these divorces. And do us a favor and subscribe to the Divorce Broadcast. We will see you all soon. Thank you.